The tragedy of Lily Peters. On a seemingly ordinary Sunday evening in April 2022, a quiet neighborhood in Chippewa Falls, Wisconsin, was shattered by a disappearance that felt like a localized glitch in reality. At 9 p.m., a frantic father reported that his 10-year-old daughter, Lily Peters, had failed to return from a simple bike ride to her aunt's house. The distance was negligible, a route she had traveled countless times, yet the only thing investigators found was her abandoned bicycle, discarded near a trail just a few hundred yards from her destination. The search ended the following morning in the most visceral way possible, when her body was discovered concealed under a pile of leaves in a wooded area. The true horror of this case didn't lie in a mysterious stranger lurking in the shadows, but in the premeditated coldness of a killer within the family circle. Through a tip from a Reddit user who spotted Lily with another child while playing Pokemon Go, police arrested her 14-year-old cousin, Carson Petersberger. This wasn't a crime of passion. It wasn't an accident. It was a calculated predatory strike, executed by a teenager who had planned the assault and the subsequent concealment of the body with terrifying precision. The investigation revealed that the killer had scouted the trail beforehand, choosing a spot where the dense foliage would hide his actions from anyone just a few feet away on the path. This tragedy serves as a brutal subversion of the stranger danger trope that we are taught from childhood. It forces us to confront the disturbing reality that the most dangerous predators don't always look like monsters. Sometimes they carry the same DNA and share the same dinner tables. The transition from a playful bike ride to a crime scene took less than 5 minutes, proving how quickly a familiar environment can turn into a lethal trap. It leaves us with a haunting paradox. We spend our lives securing our doors against the outside world, yet we are often most vulnerable to the evil that is already invited inside. As we look at the empty trails and quiet streets, we are reminded that true darkness doesn't always hide in the woods. Sometimes it's sitting right next to you, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Google Maps. Help. A chilling discovery surfaced in early 2025. The eagle-eyed users scanning the industrial outskirts of Los Angeles spotted a message from above that stopped their hearts. Written in massive, jagged letters across a desolate rail yard floor were the words "Help," flanked by federal and LAPD. To anyone watching, this looked like a desperate SOS from a victim of human trafficking, a secret labor camp hidden in plain sight. Most feared this was a fresh signal from a captive screaming for rescue, but the reality revealed by the LAPD was far more tragic. It was the byproduct of a decade-long psychological collapse. The massive scale of the letters suggested an organized effort fueling fears of a massive criminal operation. The investigation uncovered that these messages weren't a plea for rescue, but the long-term work of a single homeless man. He was struggling with severe mental health issues. For nearly 10 years, he meticulously painted these signals across a perimeter of several hundred feet, creating a localized map of his own internal paranoia. While the internet speculated about underground tunnels, the truth was a man who consistently refused every offer of housing or medical support. The help he sought wasn't from a physical prison. It was a mental one that no authority could penetrate. He was trapped in a cycle of isolation that no satellite could truly fix. This case highlights a disturbing paradox. We possess the technology to see a single foot of ground from space, yet we remain blind to the suffering right in front of us. Located just 2 miles from downtown, this rail yard served as a monument to a failed social safety net. A man screamed for help in giant letters for years, but nobody was truly listening. The horror isn't the crime we imagined. It's the silence we allowed to persist. It is the realization that a person can vanish while being visible to the entire world. Have you dreamed of this man? Close your eyes and think back. Did you see a man with a heavy brow and an unsettling grin in your sleep last night? In 2008, a mysterious sketch began appearing on street corners and forums across the globe. The website Ever Dreamed of This Man claimed that over 10,000 testimonials had been collected from people who saw this exact face in their dreams. They had never met him in reality. It felt like a glitch in the collective unconscious. A singular, supernatural entity was actively haunting the global dreamscape. The sketch's primitive features felt universal, making it easy for the subconscious to replicate during the REM cycle of thousands of strangers. This wasn't just a website, it was a digital campfire for a modern, shared nightmare. The horror here isn't a ghost. It's the terrifying power of social suggestion and the fragility of memory. This phenomenon mirrors the work of Junji Ito, stories where a cursed thought begins to infect an entire population through sheer awareness. In 2010, the illusion shattered. Italian marketer Andrea Nutella admitted the site was a guerrilla marketing stunt. He had used a distorted version of his own father's face to see how far a manufactured lie could travel. He proved that an idea once planted can grow into a self-sustaining monster. The simplicity of the face allowed it to act as a blank canvas for our deepest anxieties. The most disturbing part? Many people weren't lying. Once the image was seated in their minds, their brains fabricated false memories to match the narrative. It proves we can be programmed to dream of a stranger. This incident is a chilling reminder that our dreams are vulnerable to external manipulation and manufactured folklore. Our minds are not the iron fortresses we believe them to be. They are porous canvases just waiting for the next viral nightmare to be painted upon them. We are all susceptible to the shadows that others cast into our minds. I feel fantastic, Robot Tara. One of the earliest and most persistent nightmares of the internet involves a pale, mannequin-like figure standing in a dimly lit room, singing "I feel fantastic" in a synthesized hollow drone. This is Tara, the android. Her stiff mechanical movements and blank stare trigger an immediate visceral reaction known as the uncanny valley. The video's eerie quality was amplified by a sudden, grainy shot of a forest clearing, leading to viral theories that the creator, John Bergeron, was a serial killer who had dressed the robot in the clothes of his victims. This unsettling juxtaposition of domestic machinery in the deep, silent woods created a narrative of hidden violence that felt all too real. Internet sleuths spent years obsessing over the location of that forest. They were convinced that bodies were buried just a few feet beneath the dirt shown on screen. The terrifying paradox of Tara is that her intended purpose, to be an entertainment prototype, is exactly what makes her so disturbing. She is close enough to human to be recognizable, but just mechanical enough to feel dead. This discomfort is a primal defense mechanism, a psychological alarm that goes off when our brains encounter something that looks human but lacks a soul or life force. It is the same instinctual dread we feel when looking at a corpse that appears to be breathing, a signal that something is deeply, fundamentally wrong. The investigation finally peaked in 2020. It revealed a far more mundane, yet still deeply unsettling reality that spans decades. John Bergeron was simply an eccentric inventor who poured thousands of dollars and 15 years of his life into a singing android project that never quite found its target audience. While there were no victims, the darkness remains in the isolation of the project itself. The haunting image of a man alone in a room for years, perfecting a plastic woman that would eventually become the face of 1 million digital nightmares. The true horror isn't a murder, but the obsessive, lonely pursuit of an artificial soul that resulted in nothing but a hollow, singing shell. It is the sound of a man's life echoing through a machine. Utah No Tatari. The digital age has a way of preserving ghosts. None are more haunting than the grainy image that plagued the Japanese gaming community for nearly a decade. In 2 obscure horror titles, players stumbled upon a glitch that bypassed the game's internal logic to display a high-contrast photograph of a woman's face. The image was visceral. It featured eyes that seemed too wide and a mouth frozen in an agonizing silent scream. This led to widespread rumors that it was a leaked crime scene photo of a real murder victim. This wasn't just a jump scare. It felt like a violation of the digital space, an intrusion of real-world gore into a simulated environment. The terrifying possibility that a developer had hidden actual evidence of a tragedy within the game's code created a lingering dread. This mystery taps into the deep-seated Japanese cultural concept of Tatari, or a powerful curse that lingers when a person dies in a state of extreme rage. For 8 years, the internet obsessed over this digital ghost. They wondered if the software was literally possessed by the woman in the frame. The terror lay in the technique of being hidden in plain sight, where the image existed within the game's files all along, just waiting for the right line of code to break. In 2022, a dedicated Reddit user finally traced the origin. He proved the image was actually a single frame from the trailer of a 2007 Japanese horror film titled Hair Extensions. The discovery stripped away the supernatural, but it replaced it with a disturbing realization of how easily a misplaced marketing asset can traumatize thousands. The revelation that it was a marketing asset rather than a corpse didn't diminish the horror. Instead, it highlighted how a single misplaced image can create a multi-generational psychological scar, even though the ghost was debunked. The fact that a frame from a low-budget film could survive as a digital curse for 15 years speaks to our primal fear of the unknown. We are naturally programmed to find patterns and stories in the dark. Utah No Tatari proved that a fictional face can carry the weight of a real tragedy if the context is sufficiently disturbing. It reminds us that in the world of J-horror, the scariest things aren't the monsters we see, but the ones we think we recognize. The internet doesn't just share information, it manufactures its own folklore from the scraps of forgotten media. The Post-it Notes. Mystery. In 2015, a man using the handle R.Bradbury shared a story on Reddit that felt like the plot of a high-tension psychological thriller. Despite living alone in a secure third-story apartment, he began finding mysterious Post-it notes left on his furniture containing cryptic messages like, "Save your documents," and "Our landlord isn't letting me talk to you." He checked his locks, installed hidden cameras, and even suspected his landlord was breaking in to gaslight him. The space that should have been his safest sanctuary had been transformed into a claustrophobic stage for an invisible intruder, where every yellow slip of paper felt like a physical threat. The sheer impossibility of the situation, finding physical evidence of an intruder in a locked, undisturbed home, began to erode his grip on reality, fueling a spiral of intense paranoia. The genius of this mystery is that the villain wasn't a stalker, but the very air he was breathing inside his home. After a user suggested his symptoms, headaches, lethargy, and memory loss matched carbon monoxide poisoning, Bradbury bought a detector that immediately screamed a lethal warning. Carbon monoxide is a colorless, odorless killer that effectively short-circuits the brain's ability to form new memories, leading to a state of living somnambulism. The terrifying truth was that those mysterious notes weren't left by an intruder. Bradbury had been writing the notes to himself during periods of toxic-induced blackout and had zero recollection of doing so. This physiological sabotage forced his mind to invent a phantom enemy because it couldn't comprehend that its own environment was turning lethal. This case provides a visceral look at how the mind can fracture under physiological stress, creating a haunting that is entirely self-generated. The Post-it notes were not just reminders. They were screams for help from a subconscious mind that realized it was dying before the conscious mind could grasp the danger. It is a masterpiece of psychological horror because it proves that you can't trust your own senses when your biological hardware is failing. In an apartment spanning just 800 square feet, a man became a stranger to himself, proving that the most dangerous intruder is the one already living inside your own head. The realization that your own hands could be leaving messages you don't remember writing is perhaps the ultimate horror, turning your own body into a vessel for a stranger's warnings and transforming your home into a silent, air-filled tomb. Thank you for venturing into the depths of these mysteries with me today. If these stories of psychological fractures and solved enigmas resonated with you, consider subscribing to join our community of seekers as we continue to peel back the layers of the unexplained. Your support allows us to keep exploring the shadows together. Until next time, stay vigilant, because the truth is often stranger and much darker than we dare to imagine.